One unfortunate fact nowadays is that Star Wars and controversy seems to go hand in hand. It seems that no matter where you look, the fans aren't happy. So I want to go back in time to when fans were happy. 2005. Specifically, in 2005, we're going to look at the Star Wars Episode 3 video game, which, as you can guess by the title of the video, is my personal favorite Star Wars video game. Even after all this time, and all the Star Wars games that have come along, this game still stands above all others for me. It's not hard to see why, since it falls right into my favorite genre of games, third-person action games, which is exactly what the Revenge of the Sith game is. You play as Obi-Wan and Anakin, and you go through 17 levels, cutting your way through any enemies that get in your way. Now this isn't going to be a standard review. You already know how I feel about this game. It's in the title of the video. Instead, I'm going to talk exclusively about my favorite parts of the game, the things that keep me coming back after all these years. More specifically, why this game is my favorite Star Wars game. With that being said, let's get started with my nostalgia. Not gonna lie, one of the biggest reasons I enjoy the game is the nostalgia I have for playing this game back in the day. This is easily one of my most played childhood games. I remember vividly playing this game with my brother and cousins, so when I go back to it, I always think of those nice times. But out of all the reasons I come back to this game, this is the least of those reasons. When I'm playing a game, memories are nice, but ultimately, if I don't enjoy the game, I'm not going to come back to the game. So with that, let's actually talk about stuff within the game itself. Like the Order 66 mission. This is arguably the best mission in the game. It adds more context to Anakin's rampage and gives a great view of the Jedi Temple. Now we'll get more into this in a little bit, but the actual lightsaber v lightsaber combat is the best part of the game, which is why this level is so great, because it's nothing but lightsaber duels. Not as complicated as the boss fights, but still very fun. Now just because you're Anakin and these guys aren't, it doesn't make the level a cakewalk. In fact, this level features maybe the hardest non-boss enemy in the game. The Jedi Brutes don't mess around. You can't combo them, as they'll just knock you back like it's nothing. You'll have to use the Force on the guys to open them up. You can also make some good use out of your grab moves on these guys. The only problem I have with this level is that the ending turret section is not really that fun, but ultimately, that doesn't take away this level's overall enjoyment. Now while the level being part of my favorite things about this game will probably make sense, the next thing probably won't make much sense, because I love the Mustafar level. This is the 14th mission in the game, so it makes sense that this is a difficult mission. But when I was a kid, I thought this level was impossible. Almost every single room and enemy felt like a gauntlet to me. But now that I'm older, and I've gotten to learn the mechanics of the game, this has become one of my favorite levels. It forces you to use almost every single skill in the game in order to get through the whole thing. From using the lightsaber throw on the basic enemies to keep them from stunning you, to then using ranged attacks and grabs to kill the big brute enemies. As long as you ignore the annoying shit boss at the end of the mission, I find it to be potentially my favorite standard level of the game. But it's not my favorite level in general. We'll get to that in a little bit. Before that, however, I want to talk about the dialogue. The voice acting across the board is pretty good, featuring some Star Wars mainstays, like James Arnold Taylor as Obi-Wan, T.C. Carson as Mace Windu, and Tom Kane as Yoda. There are others, but the cast isn't the thing I want to discuss. Like I said, it's the dialogue. Because it's actually kind of hilarious. There are so many lines in the game where the characters are just smack-talking each other. The best part is that most of the time, these are happening during these major life-or-death battles, like the Obi-Wan and Anakin duel. These former friends are having an epic final confrontation. And Obi-Wan is still all like,
"What's the matter, Anakin? Afraid? Stay back. Oh, I'll bet you didn't see that coming."
The best part of the dialogue easily comes from Matt Lucas as Anakin. Matt was the voice of Anakin in the 2D animated Clone Wars series. He always brought the whiny tone that the movie portrayed fairly well. In this game, the tone makes Matt's performance arguably the most entertaining in the entire game.
Yes, I sense Syndraulig. I'll deal with him. You stay and protect the beacon. Guard it with your lives.
But Matt's greatest contribution to the game was undoubtedly his death sound. While everyone else has a quick noise when they die, this is the noise Anakin makes. Overall, the voice acting as a whole is an extremely entertaining factor of the game, but not nearly as entertaining as the boss fights. So, confession time. This whole video has just been an excuse to talk about the boss fights in this game. Dueling as a whole in this game is the best it's ever been in any game to feature Jedi. Keep in mind, I haven't beaten Jedi Outcast or Academy yet. I love the fights so much that I'm going to go through each of the bosses one by one, starting with Count Dooku. If it's your first time playing the game, Dooku will probably act as a skill check for you, because once you reach the second phase of the fight, Dooku stops holding back. He'll begin using his charged attacks, which can knock you off your feet. By phase 3, he's bringing out super battle droids to try and distract you. But for you, it doesn't work. Once we reach phase 4, we get this amazing cutscene. Dooku runs away, probably realizing the young boy he fought on Geonosis all those years ago has finally caught up with him. This shot of Anakin slowly walking up the stairs gives off the impression of someone who realizes how powerful they are and the presence they give off. You feel especially powerful in this last phase, because at this point, Dooku has run out of tricks. It's easily my favorite part of the fight. You've got him on the run, and now you just need to finish the fight. Speaking of finishing, let's talk about the ending cutscene, because as opposed to the movie where Anakin has to be talked into killing Count Dooku, this is what happens in the game. He's a little more inclined to killing him, let's say. As much as I love the story in this fight, actually playing it is a bit of a different story. I've played this game for so long that Dooku isn't really that much of a challenge anymore. Wait, you weren't supposed to see that clip. Cut! So ultimately, I don't play this level that much. But every boss fight afterwards is a different story, because every boss after this provides a pretty decent challenge, with General Grievous being a prime example. Grievous is debatably the hardest boss fight in the game. Right out of the gate, he comes out swinging. He's constantly attacking and not really giving you an opportunity to get an attack in. You need to make smart use of your force moves here in order to get a hit in on Grievous. You also need to keep your distance during some parts of the first phase, in order to avoid some of his more damaging attacks. But, in the second phase, that philosophy changes a little bit, because Grievous starts introducing some long-range attacks, where he uses a blaster. This makes it to where Grievous can get you from either short range or long range, and the third phase keeps this idea going. During this phase, Grievous will introduce another long-range attack. Granted, this one is pretty easy to avoid if you know what you're doing, but if the move does get you, it can do big damage. Grievous's best move, though, doesn't have anything to do with a lightsaber or blaster. It doesn't do the most damage, but it's so cool, I'm just gonna show you it right now. It does not get any better than that. But back to the fight. A cutscene transitions us to the final phase of the fight. Grievous decides to pull out all 4 lightsabers available to him. Grievous is at his most dangerous here, as his attacks do more damage now thanks to the 2 additional lightsabers. Plus, he's given a charged attack that can turn the tide if you're not careful. But just keep your wits about you, and you'll end this fight with the mechanical monster. The next fight is with Mace Windu. Compared to Grievous, there isn't as much introduced in each phase of the fight. Windu is about the same at the beginning as he is at the end, but the atmosphere of the fight certainly does change. Going from inside to fighting outside in the middle of a thunderstorm. The final phase of the fight has an extremely sinister tone, especially helped by the music in the background.
Should be fighting, not me.
One thing about the fight that is humorous, though, is the ending cutscene. Like the cutscene in the Dooku fight, Anakin's actions deviate, let's just say a little bit, from the movie. In the film, Anakin cuts off Windu's hand to protect Palpatine. Then, it's Palpatine who knocks Windu out of the window. In the game, though, it's a little different, to say the least. Overall, Windu is another entertaining fight. Next up is an interesting one, because it's two different bosses in the same mission. Sarah and her master, Sendrawling. You don't fight them both. You fight Sarah first, and then after, you fight Sendrawling. Sarah is the easier of the two, but that doesn't mean she's a cakewalk. She has a lot of multi-hit combos that, if you don't keep your distance and block when appropriate, you will get killed. But other than that, she's way easier than Grievous or Mace Windu. The same can't be said for her master, Sendrawling. He has a lot more attacks compared to his now dead apprentice. Actually, some of them feel like updated versions of Count Dooku's attacks. But Sendrawling has enough new attacks to make him feel different, especially in Phase 2, where he starts throwing out some more aggressive attacks. Now, we move on to the final boss of the story mode. Or, should I say, bosses, as you fight Anakin as Obi-Wan, but you also fight Obi-Wan as Anakin. I'm going to talk about both bosses together, since I like the same thing in both of these boss fights. First off, this boss feels different from every other fight in the game, and you see that in the health bar. Both bosses have more health than any other fight in the game. This makes the fight feel like a journey in itself. There are about 6 phases in this fight, and it gives off a feeling similar to the fight in the film. Not in the emotional department, but in the actual fighting part for sure. You move throughout the whole facility, so the fight never gets boring. The fight's difficulty also keeps it entertaining, as the bosses never really let you rest. Especially in the final phase, where you and the boss are on a single platform. You have no room to go anywhere, and you have to pretty much stand and fight to survive. Then, there's the final cutscene, which features one of the greatest moments in Star Wars gaming. I'm not talking about Obi-Wan's high ground moment. If you've played the game, I think you know the moment I'm talking about.
Don't try it.
Yep, after you beat Obi-Wan as Anakin, he just kills Obi-Wan. Anakin then goes on to kill Palpatine and take over the Empire. It's a wild alternate ending, and I can't believe they were allowed to put this in the game. It's arguably the most famous thing from the game, even now. But there we go, we've looked at all the boss fights in the story mode. However, there's one more boss fight in the bonus missions. That being Vader versus Ben Kenobi. It's not the greatest fight, but it's a very cool addition to the game. I don't have much more to add to this particular fight. It's a cool addition, but it only takes place in one area, and it's not that difficult. So moving on. Now that we have looked at all the boss fights, I want to mention one simple thing that I like about every boss in this game. They're all duels. If you watched my Devil May Cry or Kingdom Hearts videos, you'll know that duel-type bosses are my favorite. So the fact that every boss fight in this game is essentially a duel, it makes sense why I like all the bosses so much. In fact, I would call the final boss with Anakin and Obi-Wan one of my favorite final bosses in all of gaming. Now, we can finally move on from the boss fights and talk about the last main thing I love about this game. The Versus mode. Yep, this game has a mode that's essentially a fighting game. You can play as not only Anakin and Obi-Wan, but as every boss in the game from Dooku all the way to Vader and Ben Kenobi. Also, this mode has almost every single arena from all the boss fights in the game. Overall, it's probably the closest we've ever got to a competent Star Wars fighting game. but I really don't have that much left to say. Why? Well, because almost all the cool things about the boss fights can be carried over into this mode, aside from the story moments in those boss fights. Probably the coolest thing about this mode is the alternate costumes that each character can have. When you have a mirror match, one of the characters will have a different outfit. The only problem is that you can't just freely equip these outfits. You can only see them during a mirror match. Hopefully if there is a remaster of this game, they'll make it easier to see these outfits. Now, part of the reason I chose to save this mode for last is because it builds upon the other things I like in this game. I've already mentioned how it's basically the bosses, but with no story attached, but there's also the voice acting. I mentioned the voice acting earlier, but there are some lines that I'm pretty sure were recorded just for this mode. Like the examples mentioned earlier, they are very entertaining.
Which one of those buttons calls for help?
You make me seem positively young.
You'll die alone, Kenobi.
There you have it. The reasons why this is my favorite Star Wars game. Let me know how you feel about this game in the comments below. Also, what is your favorite Star Wars game? With that being said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Later, everyone.
These droids aren't getting any smarter.